Welcome to Wood Talk. Now here are three guys who love the smell of shellac in the morning. Marc, Shannon, and Matt.
Well, what's happening, everybody? It's good to see you. Been a little while. It's first time in 2025, and we're doing show number 579. And on today's show, we're talking about first aid in the shop, free modeling software, wood in movies, which handsaw to buy, keeping those tootsies comfortable in the shop, finding the center of an edge, and sanding safely. As you can see, it's going to be a jam-packed show.
That's a lot.
We got a lot going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to get to all
notes?
That. Me. I must have been in a good mood.
To assemble this show.
I think I may have had too much coffee when I was doing the notes, so I was just one after
another. Seems like a lot for us.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
I just picture Marc madly at the keyboard. Yeah, let's add some more. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's add that one in. Yeah.
Well, I got a really nice keyboard. I like the sound of it, so I just want to keep hitting the keys. That's the problem. All right. Well, this show is proudly supported by you folks, the wonderful folks who listen and share, and even just listening to the show. You don't have to support us financially, but if you want to, you could definitely do that over at Patreon. Now, I'm going to take Matt's job. He usually butchers all the names on Patreon, but I forgot to copy and paste all the names.
See if you can do it. This is your moment to shine.
We got 12 people that we owe a thank you to over at patreon.com/woodtalk. We have
special edition thank you from Marc.
That's right. Gordon Motion, Mike Luz, Aaron Lohr, Steve Hancock, Ted McMahon, or as Nicole would say, Mick Mahone, Jim Rosen, Shandor Simon, Mark Walling, Spoonless, Zack Shellac, and Ian. Oh, and also Chris Meyer. Well, thank you, folks, for helping support the show. And if you want to get your name read on the show, normally butchered by Matt, that's at patreon.com/woodtalk. And we always appreciate everybody's support financially. It really means a lot to us, especially in our current non-sponsored state. It really helps out. Oh, the other thing is the ad-free, right? So every show that we post, because we have to put ads in them now, if you are a subscriber at Patreon, there is a special custom RSS feed that you could use. Plug that into any podcast catcher, any podcast app, and it will give you an ad-free version of that show with a really awkward pause where the ads would normally be. And then, you can enjoy that. It's pretty darn cool. Okay, gentlemen.
Nice work, Marc.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get to what's on the bench. I'm doing the whole thing here. I don't even know why you guys are here.
Why do I need to show up for this?
Let me do it myself.
Here and smile.
I got some actual woodworking I could do behind me. You just want to carry on?
Just get to work. All right, let's get to what's on the bench. I'll hit it first. Really surprise news.
Whatever.
There's a surprise news bulletin here. Anyone following me on social media probably knew this was coming. I think I'm going to switch to clay. I think it's my new thing.
There's a clay studio I'm sitting in right now.
I'm kind of jealous. I know your wife gets down and dirty with the clay.
There's a little trimming wheel and the things that are doing the bisque drying or whatever.
It looks fantastic. I would probably have a lot to learn from
I've learned so much about this. I've never done it, but I know so much about this now and like how the kiln works and it's weird.
I'd be interested if how you would do.
It does look like fun.
I mean, Shannon, same with you. Anyone who has experience turning will approach this whole throwing clay business on the potting wheel, Hooch. You approach it as if you know what the hell you're doing.
You don't.
Like, I understand what happens when things spin in circles. I know what to do with this, right? Like,
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on potting wheel, Hooch. I think that's our show title. That has to be.
Okay, that's fine. I'll write that in. Okay,
potting wheel.
So
more keystrokes.
Yeah. See, I told you I have a nice keyboard. So I kind of went into it going, well, I know it's going to be harder than I think it is, but my brain feels like I'm going to be at some kind of advantage because I've turned things. It doesn't quite work that way.
Wood, clay.
Even just getting this damn little chunk of clay centered on the wheel prevent, like, normally we have things in such fixed positions with the tool and it's just cleaving off the high stuff, right? With this, your arms are the thing that you have to stabilize and your palms are doing the work. It's a very different feeling because the first thing I'm doing, and the lady was making fun of me because I'm just kind of like riding it, like I'm not actually centering it. I'm just following the highs and the lows. Mm-hmm. It's quite an adjustment. So anybody who hasn't done it, it's at least worth a shot. It was fun getting way outside of my comfort zone in some other creative thing.
Is it at all like strenuous? Like, is it hard work?
I think if you have like hand,
or is it one of those like good people make it look effortless? Like,
no, 100%. good people
Drive-by
make it
kid.
look effortless. If they're doing it right, it looks easy, and you get the impression, well, like, how hard could this be?
Yeah.
Well, then you try it, and you go, well, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then
So, I mean,
you start
fun.
pulling up and you start getting the forms, and hopefully it doesn't collapse on you, or you don't
Yeah.
like go too thin, or what. Like, it's a whole. I've watched them.
Hopefully,
This is a lot of stress.
yeah.
a ghost of your boyfriend doesn't appear behind you, and
Exactly.
Start to-
Now,
yeah.
I did ask her. I mean, it might have been inappropriate, but I asked the instructor if she would Patrick Swayze me while we're working.
nice.
She said that.
I would expect nothing less, Mark.
She said, I will leave that to your wife. I said, all right.
I would have been highly
Fair enough.
disappointed if you hadn't crossed that line.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Line,
Understood.
not been all grand.
Hey, I wasn't conducting the class. I'm not the one being reviewed here, so I can say what I want.
Right.
Anyway, so that was not even what's on my bench. What was on my bench are the 5 dudes that invaded my shop. We had a class. That was the big thing. It's taken a lot of time for prep before, during, and then even like rejigging the shop to get back to what I normally do, just to have to do the class again in the next month. So we really shot ourselves in the foot schedule-wise, but we were trying something. We just wanted to see how this would go. So that first class, it happened. The guys were great. Great bunch of people. Everybody hopefully had a good time and learned a lot. Mom was cooking her little butt off, making food for everybody. So it was definitely a different experience, a very different experience for me. But I think it was successful. People, for the most part, got their stools made, and we did it. We had a class in our shop. Crazy.
How many days was it?
3 days.
Okay.
3-day class. So, I mean, kind of like 2.5. Sunday tends to kind of be more of a half day. And one of the days we stayed pretty late just to kind of get ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with woodworking classes, any opportunity you have to get ahead of the game, even when you look at the schedule and you go, we're right on schedule. Get ahead of the game because you're always going to
Something
fall
happens.
behind. Yeah. But it was a real learning experience. I mean, having multiple people in your shop, deciding, where you're going to have your traffic jams, but then also the realization that traffic jams are actually helpful in a class setting when you have 5 people who may quickly divert into their own, at their own pace, and one will get way ahead of the rest. The traffic jams are there to bring everybody back together, because if I'm only one person, if I have 5 guys at different points in this process, it's my responsibility to make sure I know exactly where they're at and help them. And then they have a problem, and I got to know how to fix the problem without making the problem worse. I actually like traffic jams, but not to the extent that people are literally sitting around forever. I would try to avoid that.
Do you think 5 was a good number for that, or do you think that should be adjusted at all?
Anymore, if you go to a Marc Adams size class where you're in the teens in terms of the number of people there, well, Marc Adams handles that by giving you a highly qualified helper, and that assistant is doing a lot of the instruction and a lot of the setup, so you could pull that off. But as a single individual, any more than 5, and I feel like not only am I putting is it the instruction going down in quality and the quality time I'm spending with each person, but safety can become an issue because I don't have eyeballs everywhere at all times. I think 5, and especially in my space, 5 is 100% our maximum, but I think it turned out to be a pretty good number.
Now, are you building one too to kind of show the steps, or how did you?
Yeah, so
kind of
this was
frame
interesting.
that?
I started building one, and my intention was, look, if I have another one, I have 3 classes to do before we make a decision if we're going to continue this. Then I'll have 3 more, kitchen step stool, not step stools, a kitchen stool that I could, sell or give to a family member.
Yeah.
So I did start building one, but the whole thing was, number one, I have test pieces to start the process. So if you have to make test cuts, we're using mine to make those test cuts. Then mine becomes the demo piece. And then, and this has actually turned out to be necessary, mine becomes sacrificial. If somebody has, and Shannon and Matt, you guys have taught classes, or if you had a multi-day class, someone messes up a part on day 3.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You can't just go back and replace that part so easily. If everything is done the way this class was structured, all of our pieces are the same. They just look a little different. So one of the most important, crucial, heavily shaped pieces in the project just got caught up on the router and became a missile. That was actually my fault. Long story, but it was my fault. I gave him my piece, and he was ready to resume and go right back. So it was not disruptive at all. Yeah. But now I do not have a bench or a stool. Mine was sacrificed.
Next class, you make a couple more of those
pieces. I'm going to make 3 of those rails, and then I'll have my extra one. Exactly.
There you go.
I thought that was a good insurance policy, right? Because when someone makes that late game mistake, it's so hard to catch them back up.
I don't think that's something most people even think about. We're considering I'm going to teach a class. Okay, well, what if this happens, your student all of a sudden can't finish the project anymore. They can't move forward.
Right.
They don't have that part.
It would have been game over for that guy. Like,
Yeah.
we would have had to either stop what we're doing and try to recreate the piece, or he would have just been sitting for the last day watching everybody else work, which is not ideal. So,
Yeah.
so
that's rough.
overall, it was okay.
What I'm curious about is how many times throughout the course of that class did you make the joke stool sample?
I didn't.
What?
It's such an
wrong with
old
you?
joke.
What?
It's just such an old joke. It's the easy, low-hanging fruit of jokes when it comes to stools.
That's never stopped you. I don't understand.
I was going to say, again, this is off brand for you. I'm not.
That's true. You're right. I guess I just feel guilty and I'm ashamed. I can't remember where it was. Something that I did a class once and some dude came in with a little glass vial of a tiny, like, to scale stool in there. And he would carry that around and put it on the bench and show everyone his stool sample. This is ridiculous.
I mean, there's a fair bit of commitment to that. You know,
There's a little more effort. I got to respect
admire
it, right?
that. Yeah.
Oh, and the other
Well, I
thing
can tell
is,
you.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I did teach a class once with 6 people. And I remember thinking, is there a way I can get rid of 1 or 2 of these guys? Like, how can how can we accidentally lose them somewhere? Because
Just start
it was
talking
way
about
too much.
fleam angles or
yeah,
something,
that's
and that
true.
should get rid of at least one.
See, but these people volunteered to take a class with me anyway. That's why they were there. Like,
okay,
yeah,
crap.
I did actually think that at one point, and it backfired in a big way.
Start
and it
playing a
ended up
Wood
into
Talk
this.
episode on the shop.
There we go. Yeah.
That's all you
Drive
need.
them all right out. Yeah. So here's the other funny thing about classes, and I've always toyed with writing an article about the stereotypes of people that end up in these classes. And it is amazing how fast, within hours, I went into the office and I told Nicole they have made themselves known which stereotype they are. I'm not going to talk about which stereotypes, at least on this show. I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want anybody to feel guilty. But I mean, it was all good humored. But generally
Pretty
speaking,
sure Shores has written a blog post about this too.
Oh, did he?
And I remember
Okay.
reading it.
Well,
I'm
blame
almost
him, then.
positive it's out there somewhere. Like
everybody can
but
get
it's
mad
like
at him.
spot on.
Yeah, I mean, people. It's just human nature in a setting like this, and it's not just a woodworking thing. There's always certain personality types that you immediately identify, and you go, okay, I'm not going to go into detail, but this is the guy that's going to be ahead and is likely to be a little bit bored. This is the guy who's going to reinvent the wheel and try to do things that I did not tell them to do. This is the guy who's going to be the bull in a china shop, right? Like and they were all there. We had representation for all of the main stereotypes that I've seen while teaching. It was actually kind of fun. So anyway, great bunch of guys, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of good energy, a lot of fun. That part of it was just really fantastic. And it was a family effort to put the whole thing on. So my family, I thank them for doing all the hard stuff. I just got to play with wood in the shop for a few days. So enough about me. Matt.
Well, wait before you move on. I mean, are you sold out for the next 2 classes?
Oh yeah, those were sold out.
Okay, then never mind. Let's just give you a chance to like advertise a little.
I mean, who are we
Never
talking
mind.
to here,
Hold
Shannon?
out.
Remember who I am, okay?
You have mini leather-bound books. I forgot.
Smell of
Kind
rich
of a big
mahogany
deal.
in my office right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they sold out pretty quickly, and I mean, I guess maybe later in a future show we'll talk about the future of this venture. But I can kind of spoil the ending. I don't really think we're going to continue doing it. And there are like real logistical reasons why. It's not about people necessarily. It's just the logistics. It's such a different business. It is a completely different business than what I normally focus on. And it actually detracts a lot from that other business. So it's like, can I just go dark in my content for the 3 months that I'm doing classes, right? Like I can't really do that, but it's so hard to switch back and forth, making room for 5 extra workbenches in the shop and making accommodations for the students. It doesn't necessarily mix well. So I'm not 100% sure that we're going to continue it. It may just be something like maybe once or twice a year, we just pick the best seasons and have some kind of a class for a limited number and occasionally be able to put on a class like that, as opposed to like, this is what we do now. Like, I don't think it's that. So spoiling the ending there, but that's probably where we're going to end up.
Wow.
Okay. So Matt,
Hi.
this is big news if this is what I think it is.
I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah, I think it is. So
Yeah.
go on. What happened?
Oh, it's been a while since we last spoke, I think.
It sure
Probably like
has.
6 weeks or something. So I've been running through in that time, kind of like everything I possibly can to get things done with what's remaining in the kitchen. And then on Friday, like 2 days ago, I got to the point where I didn't have anything else I could do.
Whoa.
I'm not done, but part of the whole annoying part of the project has always been like, okay, I'm working on something. Oh, this isn't right. I don't have this thing yet. I got to wait for this. Okay, I got to switch something else. I'll work on that for a bit. And then kind of, it's all a lot of flip-flopping to get done, to keep yourself busy. And then there just wasn't anything to flip-flop to anymore.
Weird. That must feel really weird.
This is very weird. What do I do with myself?
Yeah. What do I do now?
What do I do? Is this what it's like to like not be stressed out all the time?
Wow.
Oh, this is kind of nice. So I still have a few little odds and ends to spray, but for the most part, I'm done finished spraying things. Mm-hmm. That was probably one of the best moments of my life. I can't wait to throw the thing away.
What, the sprayer?
Oh God, yeah. I hate it.
It's just toast, huh? It's been used that much?
No, it gives me zero joy. It's
just
like
revenge.
I get zero pleasure out of using that thing. I'm like, it's like an unfortunate thing. Like I'm actually decent at it now. Like I understand how to spray that product or the products I have been spraying really well to get a consistent, perfect result every time. Mm-hmm. It's not a skill I ever wanted.
So you don't want to just go get a job as a finisher, a sprayer?
I would consider getting a job as a sprayer, but not as a finisher. I don't want to do any of the prep work.
Okay.
Because what I learned too is that like you'll spend, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times as long prepping the parts than you actually will spend actually spraying them out.
Yeah.
Or like time your hand is on the trigger of the gun, I guess.
Right.
Even just like moving your parts from the rack to the spray, whatever you want, the spray stand or whatever.
Sure.
That's longer than it takes to actually spray the part too. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, there's not really a whole lot of like actual gun in the hand, finger on the trigger time when you're spraying.
Yeah, it happens fast.
Which is like the interest in the realization that I got into it so much. It's like, oh, spraying is so quick. I'm like, it's really not. It's not. Yeah. Like the actual spraying part is, but like all the ancillary crap that goes along with it, it's not fast.
Yeah.
At all. And I'm really excited to not spray pigmented finishes anymore. To go back to just do my wipe and varnish. Just calm, relaxing, quiet. I don't have to like prep anything. I throw the rag away when I'm done. Nothing to clean. Everything comes out nice. It's much more chill. I'm not rushing.
Yeah.
Bring me
That's
back.
Good.
Bring me back, baby.
Good, man. Well, I can tell you when I stopped really trying to make furniture for clients and started to dig more like full-time into content, I was very relieved. I mean, I like having spraying skills. I like having the equipment, and there are times when I need it, but I definitely, I didn't walk back to hand-applied finishes. In general, like all the things you're talking about. And I wasn't even using stuff as nasty as the crap you're using. I just didn't really...
That part doesn't bother me, though.
Yeah, because you're crazy.
I know.
You've already destroyed the brain cells that would be worried about it.
Your higher brain function is already gone.
Actually, what it confirmed to me is that I've always not really liked water-based finishes. Now having sprayed them and sprayed conversion varnishes, absolutely hate water-based finishes.
Really?
Hate them. They're terrible.
Yeah, for spray though.
For spraying it. And I think everyone who complains about how much work it is to clean the gun is spraying water-based finishes.
Yeah,
because
that
the issue
clumps up pretty quickly.
It doesn't. The solvent, it's not really a solvent. The water's not salt. It doesn't dissolve the finishes.
It's just the carrier.
It's just the carrier.
Yeah.
So you can clean it as much as you want with water. If it has started to cure anywhere on any part of the gun, it's still there. Mm-hmm. So the issue is, I probably should have had 2 guns, one for water-based and one for lacquers. But if I don't clean the gun perfectly, I put my lacquer in there, and I'll get all this crap everywhere because all the lacquer loosened up all the water-based stuff. And now the tip's clogged or whatever. So what I had to start doing was every time I sprayed water-based, I had to soak the gun and all the parts in lacquer thinner to soften them all, and then use the air compressor to blow off all the gunk and clean it that way. Because you'll never get those things clean.
That's the trade-off. We see that in an industrial level as well, where you're spraying or applying water-based in general, and you still end up using a lot of solvents just to prep the machine in between runs. Yeah, it's not really, I mean, that's not why the finishers are saying we're moving to water-based. In many instances, they have no choice due to regulation. But there's still just as much, if not more, nasty stuff to flush lines and to keep pumps alive and things like that.
Yeah, and it cures so fast too that like even the air tips start getting coated in a little bit of finish, and it just sits there because, again, the water that's in the actual finish coming through the gun isn't going to redissolve that.
Yeah,
so you start
scrape it.
So then you started getting these coatings on side of all your tips or whatever on the air caps. And I'm like, okay, that's getting all clogged up. And then some piece just kind of like flies loose. And now you got a big chunk of whatever.
Right.
Like, and the other thing is it dries way too fast.
Yeah.
Like I'm so accustomed to the lacquers where you have time. If you don't get enough on there, you just hit it again. It's fine. It's going to just kind of all dissolve back together just fine. With the water-based, you got to get it right in that first pass because you can't hit it again and have it be like a one film layer and have it flow out perfectly. So like, I don't like it.
Well, it makes it so much less forgiving for overspray too. You know, if you get a little bit of overspray and it's something that like the solvent is still activated, you can kind of
doesn't matter. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is like, on the lacquers, it doesn't matter because it's all just going to just mush together, dissolve together as a single coating. But if you have that water-based thing, you sprayed something not in quite the right order and you hit like an edge or something afterwards and the overspray from the edge hits the face. Now you got all these little dots all over your actual finished face because it's not going to redissolve into the layer there because it's already dry.
Yeah, right. So the big question though, the family moved in. We're using the kitchen now.
Oh, that was the whole thing we started talking about. Yeah. So
bring us back on track here.
We, I'm so glad I wrote it in the notes. Yes. We started moving in a week ago and we kind of like, I don't know, dabbling along with it over the week because it's actually a lot of work. Like there's a lot of stuff that gets accumulated in that kitchen. And we're not 100% done, but we're probably like 90 something percent moved out of the old kitchen as of yesterday, which was a big undertaking. I'm like, part of it too is like, why do we still have these things? Or like, why do we have 4 of these?
It's a good clean out opportunity.
We're like, why do we have this? This expired 6 years ago. Why do we have this? Like that kind of stuff. Or like,
redundant appliances.
Lindsay was like, I bought one of these. It was like a flour sifter. She's like, oh, I didn't even know I had this other one already. And it turns out we had a third one.
Nice.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. Dude, we had the same exact thing with our kitchen. It was such a blessing in disguise to be able to just go through everything, like stuff you didn't know you had and clean it out. And then when you go back in, you kind of master plan the new layout and all the new storage. Yeah, so the big question though is, did you guys, have you cooked your first meal there yet?
Yeah, I've been cooking Lindsay's breakfast in there for like a week now. And it's been great. I made breakfast in there this morning. Lindsay made stew yesterday morning. Put on the stove or whatever for the whole day. We've never had a kitchen space that makes sense for almost like, I guess, modern ways that people use the space.
Yeah.
So one of the things Lindsay really wanted, like in an arbitrary sense of her mind when we started this, is having an island and having space for the kids to be present in the kitchen with her as she was cooking. And the first thing she really made was that stew yesterday. And the kids were just sitting there at the island helping her. They were like chopping carrots and going to the pantry and getting like the onion out from there. And they were actually able to be part of the whole kind of cooking experience. Our current kitchen doesn't really allow for that. There's not enough space in there to really have anyone else in the room with you.
It's huge in a kitchen space if you actually have room for more than one butt in the walkway, right?
That's like it was to have 2 people in the kitchen we have right now is like awkward and tight.
Yeah.
It's a peninsula style kitchen. And then the fridge is at the opposite end of the peninsula. So if you open the fridge, you can't escape the kitchen or get into it because the door blocks it. I absolutely love the space. It's like, it's very weird to be like, I actually really enjoy being in here. Lindsay typically does a lot of the cooking because that's just what she enjoys. So my station is the sink cleanup station kind of thing. I love that sink. I'm like, holy hell, this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life.
That's great.
It's a single basin, 30-inch sink. It's like washing your dishes in a bathtub. Like you can put the whole frying pan in there. I'm not like up on the side, scrubbing sideways. I can like put the whole thing in there.
Put the kids in there.
I could wash my kids in there. I had a cast iron skillet and a Dutch oven in the sink at the same time.
Oh my
Flat,
God.
perfect. I'm like, this is the greatest thing.
Look at you. 1% are you.
And I've never had an undermount sink before. I'm like, this is the way to go. I don't have this weird lip. I got like scrape stuff over to get them into the sink to clean up afterwards.
Right.
And it's an apron sink too. So I'm short. So you don't have the thickness of the countertop in front of the sink, making it like you got to reach over.
Even higher, right?
Yeah, I'm like, this is living. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but you earned it, man. You really earned it. Congratulations.
I got a
That's
sink.
great.
I can wash things now.
I'm so excited
It's a
for
good
you.
thing because you have no one to blame if it went wrong.
Well, speaking of that, is there anything either identified by you or Lindsay that is not the way you expected it or is not as useful as you thought it would be? Like, have you gotten to a point to identify something you would have done differently?
Not quite. Yeah, I have my regrets on a few things that are like really small details that no one cares about but me, which I could share if you want. But as far as larger functional things, not really yet. We haven't really had enough time into it. In theory, having the appliance garage feels like the greatest thing ever too, because everything that's anything you plug in is like stored in that one cabinet. We have the countertop, which has plugs behind it, so you can leave the most commonly used things plugged in up there. And I put plugs in the top drawer, so we can leave like the blender base in there plugged in, so she can just pop the blender top on, blend whatever, and close the drawer and be done.
Push it back, yeah.
So like that feels good.
Good.
I guess we're trying out this new thing where we put our dishes in a drawer. That seems like it's working pretty well.
I saw a video about that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, like every time I've ever had a kitchen so far has been like the plates and dishes are up on the upper cabinets with all the cups and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, let's try this where we put the dishes in the drawers. And we have the everyday dishes. We have like the plastic dishes for the kids. We have like the picnic dishes for like when you go outside. And guess what? They're not all stacked on top of each other, and you got to dig them out. Like it's just like it's like layers. It's like this is it's the most organized thing we've ever had. Yeah, is that space, and
but
it's not even organized yet.
It's those little creature comforts like that make it so much. Like when we moved to Denver, that kitchen was pretty well thought out, and there was just a lot of stuff that once we moved away from there, we didn't even know how much we got used to having those conveniences. Just those little things.
Even the area we have like set up around the range now, I'm like, okay, we got the pots and lids drawer to the left. If you go one unit over, you pull that out. It's got the frying pan rack where they're all stored vertically, so you just grab whatever pan you want. And then on the right side, you got the pull-out thing, which has like literally every cooking oil, vinegar thing that Lindsay might use, along with all of the bulk spices. The top drawer to the left is all the spices. Yeah. So like that's all right there. Right, well, it's kind of funny as we're putting this together, like, oh, it's kind of nice to have everything down here in the bottom. We got to the uppers, like, what do we put up here?
Right.
What are we supposed to put up here?
We might have extra space.
Like, I don't know if we really need these uppers around the range.
That's your flour sifter garage. That's where they go.
Right. Our uppers, like the stuff you just can't access that easily, is where we put like cookbooks we don't use very often, and then seasonal things. Like specific holiday related things that we are only going to use once a year.
The only things we really decide that would like make sense to go on the uppers are like the roasting trays, because I use them for Thanksgiving or around the holidays once or twice a year. That's the only time they get used. So we'll put those up there, which is weird because they were always like in a lower somewhere buried on a bottom cabinet, because we also didn't have that many drawers in the lowers. They're all like cabinet things, whatever you want to call it, like open shelf cabinets. Mm-hmm. We don't have any of those. I didn't put any of those things in that kitchen at all. Everything is drawers or rollouts or pullouts or whatever.
Nice.
That's the other thing I really like. I'm like, there's no like squatting down and like digging into the back of a cabinet.
Right, yeah, that's how stuff gets lost.
Which was exactly what happened when we moved out of the other one. We're like, holy, like all the crap back here.
Yeah,
this is insane.
That's when you find that Charlie Brown hot dog toaster that you didn't know you had. Yeah,
and your now, Sports Illustrated football phone back there too.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Oh man, I can't tell you how excited I am for you guys. That's fantastic.
I'm almost done.
I have serious kitchen envy.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not hide that. It's beautiful. The whole thing is just fantastic. So are we looking forward to, like you do normally, like a shop tour? Are you going to do a video that is like a final beauty shot kitchen tour?
I probably will, because I have to decide what I'm going to do with all this content now to make it actually worthwhile. Yeah. So I'm people aren't that interested or excited about all the little minutia details leading into it. But if you show them like the after, people don't care how I made that pots and pans pull-out thing. But me opening that drawer and showing those frying pans standing up vertically like that, best thing I've posted on Instagram in like 3 years.
Oh, you got potential to get into the general normal people kitchen market of video content, right? Like if you do it right. So that's got a lot of potential.
Well, I think could you do me a favor and present it? please present it in the style of Martha Stewart. Like, Mark may still have a blonde wig that you could borrow.
Oh,
Probably.
good. That's
I
what
might have
need.
more than one, honestly.
Probably.
Let's get some hair dye. I don't even need a wig.
Yeah, right? You got your own long hair. Look at that gorgeous flowing mane. All right. Well, that's awesome, Matt. Shannon, I think we still have time, like 3 minutes to hear what you got going on.
All right. I'm in the middle of several different projects, but took a break to do some testing.
Oh my
on
God.
some
Sorry,
modified
Shannon.
wood.
I just realized I misread your notes. I swear I thought you were building a cant hook. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He's
Oh,
gonna
nice.
do some log stuff.
No.
That's cool.
No, I own it. I own a cant hook already. I don't
I
need to
got
build
so
one.
excited to hear the story. Not that I'm not excited to hear about your coat hook, but
I can't wait to hear about your coats, your extensive
Yeah.
collection of coats.
So there's a design that I've seen floating around woodworking forums for a while, and it's a mount one board that mounts to the wall, and the coat hooks actually pivot out. So
Yeah, like the
imagine you
hideaway
can
almost.
yeah, exactly. And it was always like you set it up so that they're weighted so that they are at rest when they're up and flush. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to try to do it as a friction fit? Well, that kind of defies all wood movement, because if the hook that mounts to the wall, the grain's running horizontally, I want my coat hooks to run vertically. So I just literally took this. It's a simple project. It can be quite fun. It's very contemporary design. I'm building 2 of them. One has the hooks made out of Akoya, which is a chemically modified wood, and the other one has the hooks made out of thermally modified wood. Both of them claim to have little to no movement. So I'm going to make it out of the shop to be a friction fit. And
Nice.
it is January as we're recording this, and it's cold as anything. So that stuff's only going to swell. I'm really just kind of curious. Like, I've designed this to self-destruct, or possibly maybe not self-destruct. That's a bit much, but I will never get used to that coat hook. But if you think about it, when they freeze in place, that'll be in the warmer months, and I don't need a coat. So
That's true.
it's kind of like a weather gauge at the same time. Like, if the hooks work, it's time to put your coat on. But
Or
no, it was literally
like
just
my-
an experience.
Well, like my desks with the epoxy and plastic,
Mhm.
or it'll go like that, and it will be, because you're watching it, it'll be totally fine.
Totally
it won't
fine.
do anything.
Yeah,
It'll be
that's
the
what I
exception that
suspect.
proves the rule.
So, Akoya, I've got a block of it. I was actually just at the factory this past week, so I have a souvenir first batch from the American factory Akoya block.
I'm surprised it doesn't say Akoya. Oh, boy.
Oh boy, yeah.
Oh,
That'd be
Yeah.
a great slogan.
I did make that joke this week. It didn't go over
It
very
didn't
well.
go over well? Okay.
No, it didn't
Oh,
work.
well.
So,
It's always worth a shot. I would have laughed.
but yeah, I mean, both products, both processes, I should say, thermal and chemical modification, claim like 1.5% movement. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, hold on. Back up. What is the chemical thing? Explain that.
Oh, well, it's just acetylization. So you take acetic anhydride, you kiln dry the wood normally, then you stick it into a pressure pot and you pump acetic anhydride in, raise the temperature, and then the secret sauce is the mix, the solution of acetic anhydride and heat, and for how long, essentially. So we're going to get real technical here, but you're a chemist, kind of, Mark.
I can
We're
handle
going
it.
to break all of the hydroxyl bonds. So wood, by its very nature, has OH negative ions sitting there at the end of the molecular change. OH negative is just screaming for water to bond to it. So when you break all those OH negative hydroxyl bonds off of it and replace them with acetic anhydride, you create acetyl groups. And those acetyl groups are essentially non-reactive. So now not only is the free water and the bound water gone, but there are no more bonding sites for water. So
interesting.
in many ways, it's waterproof. It's not waterproof, but it's pretty damn close to
From a
waterproof.
wood movement perspective, waterproof.
Right. So there's no swelling going on here. And you're not subjecting it to super, super high temperatures like you are with thermal modification.
Yeah.
So you don't get a breakdown in stiffness or structural. And granted, it's not that dramatic from a thermal modification perspective, but from a woodworker, I would not want to cut dovetails in thermally modified wood. It's way too brittle. Chemically modified or acetylized wood, you don't experience any of that. You increase the hardness a little bit. So most people are using radiata pine to do this. So you end up with a radiata pine that's about the same hardness of cherry or walnut. So it's
Oh,
about a
interesting.
doubling of the hardness.
I mean, but that's kind of a
but-
benefit, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, radiata pine's super, super soft. But the cool part is the byproduct of this is acetic acid,
Mhm.
vinegar, essentially. And that product is actually manufactured and sold to a lot of different industries. So from an environmental sustainability perspective, yeah.
I love it.
I would try it.
Artisanal wood vinegar.
I love vinegar. I would give it a shot.
So yeah, I mean, there's zero waste.
Awesome.
Everything that is produced to make it, acetic anhydride has been used industrially for centuries for a lot of reasons. So they're not making acetic anhydride in order to create acetylized wood. It's already there. So they're using an existing chemical to create a modification which produces another chemical that already has another resource.
Yeah.
And that's really the kind of cradle to cradle circular build construction economy that we're kind of going for.
It's like no waste.
I mean,
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool product. It scares people when you say chemical modification because I think like pressure treated. The CYAs and ACQs and things
Dangerous
like that.
to cut.
Yeah, this is not. You're not treating the wood. You're modifying it. Everything you inject into it flushes out the other side.
Yeah.
And it's while it's there in the little heat bath and pressure pot, creates that chemical reaction. And then you clear all that stuff out of there. And yeah, the cool part is the waste is just a totally usable product somewhere else.
But
Yeah,
generally
it's
speaking,
interesting.
like, does this add a lot of cost as well?
Oh yeah. Oh, no question. There is the big
'Cause
drawback.
it seems like
It's
a hell of a
expensive.
process.
Yeah. I mean, and to be perfectly honest, it's radi out of pine and it's kind of ugly. Like it's got you can't really see it because I've got my glamour shot lights on in here. I've
Looks
got
like
some red
poplar
cast.
from here.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit like weak pressure treated. It's got a bit of
Oh.
that green cast to it.
Okay.
But I can tell you it takes color extraordinarily well. So
Okay.
just be prepared to either paint it or use some dye. But yeah, I mean, price point's going to be all over the place depending on how much you buy and the particular cut and size that you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's ideally, it's one of those things that, what do we call it? Like trickle down, where eventually prices will start to drop as more and more people get into it. I've already seen that in the thermal modified market. This product, this acetylization, it's been around since like the 1930s. It's just taken a long time for somebody to figure out how to scale it to an industrial application.
Yeah.
So really, there's only one player on the market right now, and that's the Acquia people. So
Oh, man, that's cool. I love it. Good stuff. All right.
Sure. Now I don't
Well.
have to do an episode on it for Lumber Update. Great.
Hey, you just did it.
Clip
Listen to
this and
one.
drop it in.
That's what I would do. Okay. So we got a little bit of kickback here. A couple pieces, actually. First one is a voicemail from Zack. You know how we talk about some people who make the entire catalog trip from the beginning to the end? Zack did that. And he took notes as he went about things that he wanted to contact us about and never had a chance to send them. And this is kind of him summarizing that. So let's have a listen.
Hey Mark, Shannon, and Matt, this is Zack calling from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a fairly new listener. I started listening from the beginning, and I'm excited to say that I have finally caught up to the most current episode. Woo! When I first started listening in 2022, I knew I wanted to call in one day, so I started jotting down my thoughts in a notebook whenever there was a topic that I wanted to chime in on. Now I'd like to share a few of those notable entries with you. Entry number 1. Matt and Mark, you guys are setting a great example for the crafting community. Outside of woodworking, I also love knitting. I'm kind of a closet knitter. People like to poke fun at people in the knitting community. What are your thoughts about knitting? Entry number 2. Mark is cool and all, but Matt Vanderlist is awesome. I will definitely stop listening if he ever quits hosting this podcast. Entry number 3. Man, it sucks that Matt is gone, but I guess I'll keep listening. Mostly because my mom loves listening to this podcast, and I like to talk with her about it. Her favorite is Shannon. She loves that guy. She's a traveling nurse, so she often listens to the podcast on the road. Entry number 4. Well, my mom stopped listening to the podcast. I thought about quitting too, but my hope is that you bring on a great new host. Preferably someone who doesn't remind me of Matt, because I miss that guy already. Entry number 5. It's going to be tough to not think about Matt. I can't believe you guys brought on another guy named Matt. I know it's probably because Mark didn't want to reprint new mugs or t-shirts or something. Anyway,
That's exactly
I'm
it.
willing to give this Matt Cremoner guy a chance. Entry number 6. Guys, I have to admit, since you acquired this new sponsorship, the quality of the show has really improved. Hopefully you guys can avoid it up. Long live Woodtop and go. Thanks for your time. Love the show.
That was a little bit long, and I was like, okay, but it's
That
brilliant.
was not long at all.
I don't care. In fact, I think we need to have a Zack's corner now. If you truly have more notes, I want more.
That was fantastic. I mean,
Oh
really
my God.
summarizes the ups and downs, trials and tribulations of a 10+ year show, 15
Right?
plus year at
15,
this
yeah,
point,
pretty
right?
close to 15.
Yeah.
Oof, man, Zach. Well, thank you. I'm glad you made it through the catalog, and thank you for entertaining us. It's nice
That was
to,
awesome.
Get a voicemail. Like
He had me. My mom's a traveling nurse.
The traveling
Right?
nurse was
It's like,
great.
Oh, this is not going to go well.
So good. So good. Oh, man.
thank
All right.
you,
We got a
Zach.
couple
That was
more
awesome.
pieces of kickback. Matt, I think I got you on the next one.
Yep. All right. From Bram. I was listening to episode 417 where you were talking about when you start using a dovetail jig. I don't know what that means. IFO?
Oh, I don't know. Bottom line is you were talking about using a dovetail jig and the quantity that you do.
Oh, okay. Matt ironically says, I don't really want you.
Maybe I should have
house
rewrote this.
that needs. What are you trying to make me read here? I don't really want a house that needs a full kitchen done. I think that's probably where we're going with that. Yeah. I didn't. I still wish I didn't.
Still a regrettable choice.
Yes, 100%.
Well, anyway, had I rewritten that a little bit, it might have come out a little bit better out of Matt's mouth. I do sometimes.
I
do
just
that.
read what's
it just
on the
works.
page.
Yeah,
He
I
didn't
just
get a chance to mispronounce names, so
I just copy and pasted it.
Worked
Sorry.
out. Worked out well. This one's from Tom. He says, I just want to let you guys know I've been listening to your current and previous episodes. At first, I was pretty meh about the podcast. Like, okay, they're talking about different joinery techniques or this and that. But lately, I realized you guys have a brilliant combo between Matt, Marc, and Shannon. You spelled your name wrong there, Marc.
I know.
And you put me
Unbelievable.
first.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you never do that. You never put Matt first.
I mean, there's much more subtleties than simply Matt is the skilled, happy-go-lucky pragmatist. Shannon is the nerd, bringing in technical expertise, and Marc is the relatable curmudgeon. Any which way, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to learn,
Get off
laugh,
my
and
lawn.
bitch at the world through my headphones.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to be the curmudgeon here. I love
off
that
my
Matt gets to
lawn.
be skilled. Shannon
Right.
gets to be a technical nerd with expertise, but Marc is just a relatable asshole.
You're the everyman.
Tell us what really grinds your
I
gears,
mean,
Marc.
come on.
The unskilled jerk on this show. I'll
You're
take
the
it.
most relatable, though. I mean,
that's
You're
good.
the everyman. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Okay. We got some questions,
grumble.
you guys. Yeah, grumble.
You're
Let's see.
digging
We
a
got
hole
a
deeper.
question from Antonio. He says, hey, guys, I was wondering how you deal with foot pain and standing for longer periods in the shop. After a couple of hours in the shop, my feet are dead tired and sometimes hurt. Is it more to do with comfortable shoes or the floor mats? Thanks for not knitting, and cheers from Croatia. Yeah, it's both of those things. I think a good pair of comfortable shoes, whether they are really supportive work shoes, can be really helpful. Some people like hiking shoes. I wear running shoes most of the time. I just like a good, comfortable sneaker. And the floor material matters as well. So that will only get you so far. I mean, I think if you have a really comfortable work shoe, you might be fine on just about any surface. But I think anything in your shop, if you can cushion concrete, so if you're walking on concrete, anything you could do to add an additional cushion to that will allow your footwear to be a lot more flexible. So I learned that long ago. I started with the little, the like puzzle piece lightweight mats that became popular for a while there. You can get them from you could still get them from Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff like that. I started with those. Problem was I got tired of them getting sucked up in the shop vac, and they move around and you get wood under, or like wood dust under them. They can be a little bit slippery. And then I just kind of graduated to really heavy duty recycled tire rubber flooring. And I use those now. So they sell that stuff in rolls. You could just roll it out and use adhesive to connect it to the floor, or you can do what I do. And I still have the puzzle piece style things, but they join up so well. You can't really even tell that it's kind of like tiles instead of a roll.
You need a mallet to assemble it.
Yeah. People use horse stall mats. If you could let them off gas, I hear they have a horrible smell for quite a while. But anything that would allow you to have at least in front of each primary position where you're likely to stand a long time, your workbench, your table saw, a bandsaw, miter station, stuff like that, it really makes a huge difference. So you don't have to have wall-to-wall coverage, just have spot coverage and then good quality shoes. and you're going to be your dogs won't be barking at the end of the day. It's going to be a lot nicer. And don't underestimate how much that adds to your fatigue and your wanting to get out of the shop. You may not even identify it as part of that problem, but if you have this just this discomfort going on, you're not going to want to spend as much time in there. So I think take care of your feet, and I think you will be a happy camper.
Insoles are good too. I like those.
It's a good point. Insoles are really, really helpful. All right, who's next?
Be young. There you go.
Be young. Don't get old.
Don't get old.
That's it. Exactly it.
Oh, man. That was good. All right. Anyway, thank you for that, Mark. This next question is from Alex. Alex says, my wife got me a random orbital sander for Christmas, and I just put it to use for the first time. I'm slowly incorporating electrons into my hand tool focused shop. Sorry,
Attaboy.
Shannon. No electrons for you, Shannon. Turn those lights off. It's cold here.
20-inch planer right there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not plugged in though.
No.
Oh,
What we don't see is Heather on the bike
pedal
in the back,
making electricity
pedaling
on
to generate
back.
the power.
Oh, man. Okay. Alex says, it's cold here, so I had my garage closed off, and while I wore a KN95 while working, I realized afterwards just how much dust I'd created. I'm struggling to find a good/authoritative information on how to protect my lungs while sanding. I understand venting the space, or at least having an air filter, is good and something I'll save for, but I'd like to know more about masking and eye protection in the meantime. So, 1. Should I be wearing a respirator with a P100 filter, or is a proper N95 sufficient? Do you have any recommendations that won't fog eyewear? And 2, are there good glasses out there that'll protect my eyes, or do I need to get the goofy goggles?
Goofy goggles.
I'm assuming he's not have this hooked up to an extractor. Is just are you using an extractor with this?
Yeah,
He
didn't
do you have
mention
a
that.
dust bag on it? Is it just freely pumping dust out into the air? Like
The
those are
reaction
all-
what he's writing about, I don't think he has an extractor on there.
That's
No, it
kind
doesn't
of what I
sound
was
like it.
figuring, but I'm like, even if it has the attached dust bag, I don't feel like you even would notice it that greatly.
Yeah, not to
Unless
the
you're
extent
sanding a
he's
lot,
mentioning.
for like 8 hours straight. So I almost feel like maybe this sander just literally just spewing dust everywhere at the same time. So not to go to the deep end of things, but and have you spend more money. But if
That's what we do here.
if you got a not to belittle the amazing gift here, but maybe that random orbital sander doesn't really have good dust collection or extraction, even if you had it hooked up to a proper extractor. So I think at the very least, having even like a shop vac or something hooked up to there to capture a lot of that dust, so it's not just freely floating out in the air. I think that would probably be like one of your earlier priorities in a sense. As far as respirators, I don't do the N95s. I wear a P100. That's the only thing that I'll wear.
Yeah, I just checked. Like $31. Like they're not expensive.
It's
Like
not too bad.
there's
No.
I mean they're so much more comfortable.
Yeah, the 3M 6500 is a really good one that I've got a couple of those in the shop. It's got the little quick release latch. I love that thing. I would definitely, I mean, if you're getting into this, you're going to be there for a while. You're doing a lot of this. The filtration is your last line of defense for your lungs, right? So it's totally worth it. I do think masks work, but I really see masks as for, the weekender who is just doing this once and may not do it again. That certainly doesn't need to buy a respirator for that activity. You're talking about repeated wearing and also comfort, right? I don't find those paper masks very comfortable. And
Right.
you do get used to a respirator after a while. It is a lot more comfortable on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 6500, 3M 6500 is 31. No, sorry. This is 6502, Mark.
Okay.
It's fancier. $31
Too better.
on Uline. And then
That's-
the P100 filters are like $13.
That's the
Like
one I
they're-
wear when I'm
they're-
spraying is the 3M. And then in the shop for dust, I have the Eclipse or Ellipse.
Oh,
Eclipse,
right.
whatever
It's a smaller one, right?
It's really more, it's compact and small, and I find it to be a lot more comfortable for long-term wearing. That's the other thing too that honestly really sucks about masks and respirators and stuff. It's like every face is different. I have a tiny face, so I got to buy a mask that actually fits like a child's face
Yeah.
to actually be comfortable and work. So I was in this fortunate position where I'm like, okay, I got some extra money. I'm gonna just buy several different mask type things and see which ones I like the best. And I found that the Eclipse was the most comfortable, and it was also like the most convenient to get on and off. RZ masks were like really popular for a while, or I don't know if they still are, but it's like, oh, it's quick because you just like put it on your head real fast. I did not find that comfortable at all, and I could never get it to seal very well.
No,
like
those are great in theory.
The concept of it, of like getting it on and off quick, is great, but in practice, I didn't find, at least for me, to be effective at all. I might as well have just been wearing a paper mask at that point. I kind of wish like you can go like try things on somewhere,
right?
Because that would be like even to figure out like what size you need to wear would be kind of like
that's true. I mean, just because your head is big, everybody's proportioned differently, right? I mean, when Matt was in my shop, I let him try one of my masks on because he forgot to bring his, and he couldn't see when he put it on.
It's to cover my eyeballs. The filters were up here.
It was all the way up to his eyeballs. Well, here's another thing to consider. Again, this is going to be more money now, but they do make integrated masks with the face shield as well. So one of the students at the class that I taught this past weekend was Alex Adams, the meme machine, and he wears one of those. And because I guess the dust is an irritant to his eyes, so he just doesn't want that contacting his eyes at all. And it looks a little excessive. I mean, but when you're in the shop with 5 other guys, it starts to look a little excessive. But by yourself, just you're doing the right thing for you and your lungs and your eyes. So that might be a key for him, because then you don't have much in the way of like the fogging concerns. Right. But I guess if you're wearing glasses or something, if you have a prescription, well, you wear those under, right?
It shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You wear those with it. So that would solve that problem too.
Yeah, because no matter what
the
you
best
do,
way to go.
I have not found a respirator or filter or any type of thing, even during like the whole COVID thing, we're all wearing masks. I've never been able to get it so that my glasses weren't fogging up with every exhalation.
Yeah.
Like some would just do it better and it would clear up faster, but like a face mask, you wouldn't have that issue. So it's actually, if you are a glasses wearer, that's actually probably the better route all around.
If you're wearing glasses and they're fogging and you have a bottom port, it's probably meaning that your seals aren't very good and you're getting leakage right through here.
That's true. Yep.
So
the
that could be
6500 is downfiring.
Yeah.
too,
so is my Eclipse one. It's all out the bottom, like below your chin, is where the exhaust should be going. So if your glasses are foggy and you're wearing one of those, you're probably getting leakage around your nose.
Yeah.
Or your cheeks rising up towards your glasses. So that's another, like, I really wish there was like, go try, like, I know how gross that is to like go like somewhere and try a bunch of stuff on, but it'd be so functional for people, and especially for something that's so important as like protective equipment, to be able to like to find the one that actually fits you the best and be confident in your purchase. Otherwise, just randomly buying things until you find something that works.
It's a lot like buying a bike, right, Shannon?
Yeah. Yeah, except that you're not slobbering all over the bike. And then
there's that part.
Right. Can someone disinfect this
some
bike?
Sort of like UV disinfectant station. Try this on.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that anywhere near. Breathe deeply now.
Man, I won't even put at Best Buy, I won't even put headphones on my head thinking that someone else has already put them on. No, thank you. Like a mask? No, not doing a mask.
Not only do I want a UV disinfectant, I want to see you disinfect.
I want to see you go through the trouble and give me an extra wipey so I could wipe it down myself.
Extra wipey.
All right. I think we may have helped him a little bit there.
I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful. Hopefully. I don't know. Good luck.
All right. This is one of those questions where I'm like, thanks, Mark. Not really sure why you gave this to me. So this is from Kevin. He says, love listening to your podcast. I know Shannon has his hand tool school, and I have signed up for the orientation semester. Yeah, good to see you, Kevin. Mark, I also brought the dry cube bar course from the Guild. Curious when we will see Shannon do a project for the Guild.
Well, that's why I gave it to you.
It's good that you asked me this, Kevin.
It's about you.
I have a lot of control over what Mark does in his business on his site.
I think,
honestly, well, before you say anything, Mark, I don't think that would go very well. I do find that like there's a lot of members in the hand tool school are also Guild members, and I do find that there is a transfer kind of one direction, but not back the other way. And it tends to be like they can start in my school and learn like a hand tool only approach, and then a lot of them gravitate towards the hybrid thing. I even endorse that a lot of times because let's just be real. If you've got deadlines to hit, but for the person that started with like pretty much you're not an all power tool focus, but that's kind of the perception. Yeah. Going the other way, it's kind of like that is a very specific niche of person. So just from a business perspective, I think it would probably be the poorest performing course that you have, just because the lion's share of your market would be like, what the hell is this guy doing? I just filmed a video on flush trimming, edge banding on a case. And there is no question a flush trim router would have been so much easier to do it this way. Like, this is not easy. It's basically freehanding with a chisel. And I brought a bunch of tools to bear. I actually bought a chisel plane for the first time ever. And now I remember why I've never bought one in the 20 some years I've been woodworking, because it's a useless paperweight. It did not help at all. And I ended up having to pair very slowly with a chisel to make it work. Like, if I had grabbed a flush trim router, it would have been done like that. And it's one of those things, like, again, we're in this for different reasons. It's not always, some of the journey and all the fun things we want to tell to rationalize this. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I've got a different answer, because I'm going to disagree about people wanting to get into it. And the reason I just don't included like me. This, that's cool. Yes. Tired of looking at your face. I get to see it like this once a month.
I get it. It's a shame that you said that right as when your wife walked into the picture.
Yeah, there's a lady back there doing stuff. What are you getting in my drawers?
I just need batteries.
Oh, yeah. She's in the battery drawer. So we just had a Frank Straza course, and people were jokingly saying about this is stepping on Shannon's territory. What's Shannon going to think? Because it's all hand tools, right?
Shannon's so territorial.
Yeah, he is.
Because hand tools are my territory. I'm actually 3,000 years old. Yeah,
that's right.
I did invent them.
But the whole time Shannon sending me passive-aggressive texts and memes. It was terrible.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
Yep. But this is an all hand tool course. And in fact, we thought it was a course about a table. It turned out to be really a fundamentals of hand tool woodworking course, that the table is just kind of the subject matter that we're building these foundational skills on. This is one of the best-selling courses we've had in the last 10 years. So
there you go.
It's not that. So my thing that I've always bumped up against here is you have a platform. And if you work with me, you're splitting a significant portion of the revenue with me, because it's going through the guild. That's the nature of the way it works. And I feel like the people who are asking you to do a guild project are also aware that you have the hand tool school, and that if you were going to put your time and effort into building a project, that you might want to use your own platform to get 100% of the revenue instead of sharing some with Marc. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's limited thinking in the way I'm thinking about it, or maybe I'm putting thoughts into your head about what you would want. Obviously, there are going to be always some crossover, people in the guild who don't necessarily follow what you do who might get interested. So I'm not against it because of the content. I'm just against it not against it. I just haven't thought it was something you would want to pursue necessarily.
Comes out.
Yeah, finally.
Comes out.
I think the only thing that might make it different, like when I work with Matt in the guild, I just let him film. Like, he knows how to operate a camera. He can get the thing done. and you would be the same. But one of the things that makes the guild guest instructors special, what their presentations are kind of above mine, is the fact that we typically send Todd, and he does all the videography, which would be very different than the stuff you typically film for yourself, Shannon. So there would be that element.
Figure out where to put him in here.
Right, yeah. It'd be a little bit tight. And he's a big dude,
put him where
too.
the planer is. It's fine.
Yeah, we got two 6-foot-plus tall guys meandering around a hand. Well, and there's a big priority bike box back there, too. So get that out of the way.
Yeah, I got to figure out where to put that.
But it just, the logistics of it just didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, considering Shannon has the platform that he has, so that was my objection.
It's funny that you and I have actually never talked about this. So let's do it now. I honestly don't know that I would want. I don't know that I would want to do my own class. I would rather do something with you, like you and Matt have done. I think it would just be more fun.
Oh, sure.
And it would be about. I'm a huge proponent of basically what Frank did, using a project. You build a project and joke's on you. You learn some stuff along the way.
It's a teaching tool.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many great, and there could be a great project that could truly illustrate how important hand tools and power tools are in a shop. Let's finally end the war, and show that, and not that there's a war going on anymore, but it just hasn't happened. I think that would be it more than anything. We should think about it. How about that?
We could
should
talk
think
about
it.
something, but I agree. It would have to be something different than either one of us would normally put out by ourselves.
Right, because you're right. Like if it's going to be a full-on hand tool project, there's really no reason why I wouldn't release that in hand tool school. Because I get 100% of that. Not to mention, I don't have that much free time. So if I'm going to sink some time into something, it should be in my own business.
Yeah, well,
but
exactly.
If there were a vehicle that would, cross that brand, whatever we want to call it, brand identity, I think it would be interesting. It would be fun to play with. So yeah.
All right, we'll talk offline.
You heard
about
it here first. You heard it here before we even knew we were saying it. We said it there. There we go.
Or you just use the guild name in one of your releases in a hand tool school and just send me some money.
That's true.
That should make people happy, and I'll tell everybody about it.
Kickback.
Okay, we got one more question here. This is a jam-packed show today, by the way, because we're like about halfway through and well over an hour. So there's that. I hope you like it because we're only doing one this month. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, here's a quick question from Josh. Finding the center of the edge of a board. He says, I found myself needing to find the exact center of the edge of a 3/4 inch thick board to drill a hole. I tried the center finder tool from Rockler, but found it awkward and not very accurate. I tried using a tape measure, measuring from both edges, but that is not easy to hold and mark accurately. How would you go about doing this accurately and being able to repeat it? Love the show. Thanks for not quitting. Josh, I think you're on the right track. I think you just used the wrong device. I would not use a tape measure for something like this. This is the job in my shop. It's the job of the adjustable or combination square. You set that thing to the halfway point and draw your line. The key, though, at least what I like to do with this, typically I'm not taking a line all the way down. He's drilling a hole, so he just needs a good centered, repeatable line. The great thing about the combination square is you set it pretty close to the middle and you mark in from both faces. And when you do that, even if you're way off, you're going to get two lines, and it's the space between those two lines that is your dead center point. So technically, you do have the dead center there. It's just the gap. That's how I do this every day in the shop. I don't mess with any kind of centering gadgets or anything like that. Those are kind of neat, but it doesn't seem like something I would ever need when I use a square to do the job. So if you don't already have a good combination square for marking joinery and marking precise things like this, get one. It's going to be something you're going to use a lot. And this is, to me, the 3/4 inch edge. This is my 4-inch combo square, like that I can't live without. I love those little things. So that would come in handy here. Would you guys do anything differently for that?
I use a marking gauge. Same tactic, just use a marking gauge. So I get a physical line.
Okay.
Knife cut line, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean.
There you go. All right. So we're going to pause for a little commercial break, maybe get a cup of coffee, something like that.
We're an hour into the show.
Now that we're an hour into it, hey, if we're only doing one show, we're going to make it supersized for you guys.
That's true.
All right. All right.
Chunky boy show.
The chunky boy. All right. We'll see you on the other side. Okay, so we got a couple more questions here to get through. First one is a voicemail from Jonathan. Apparently, he cut his middle finger, and so this is interesting. We have a voicemail from November, and then I have a text follow-up that I'll read after this is done.
Hello, highly esteemed gentlemen of Wood Talk. Just wanted to start out by thanking you for your work on this podcast. I genuinely look forward to new episodes. Now that I have thoroughly flattered you, I recently had an accident in the kitchen while sharpening a kitchen knife. Thankfully, I didn't cut a tendon in my hand, and the cut was very clean and it healed well. But I did get to see my knuckle, and I got to wear a cool bandage for a couple weeks. Now, I've historically been a safety third type of guy in the shop, but this injury has me taking a second look at my shop safety practices, especially living alone. So my question is, do you have a plan if something were to go wrong like that, or have a to-go bag if you need to go to a hospital, emergency room? Is everyone rocking the same sort of little plastic first aid kit where half the stuff is missing? This incident has me wondering if I need to up my game to better first aid equipment, possibly a tourniquet, right? Something like that. I never saw myself as a saw stop sort of guy, but I'm starting to see the value. I hope that Shannon doesn't ever have to go to the hospital because I don't know what the nurses would do. But anyway, thanks for your insight, and I appreciate your feedback.
Oh, 2 digs in one show, Shannon.
Yeah, I thought he was going to go the other way. Like, he deserves to be in the hospital if his handsaw didn't stop. Like, if he just kept cutting. Yeah.
I also like the fact that he referred to it as a to-go bag. So, like, I'd like a severed finger. To go, please.
Please go.
Okay.
Bag it up and let's go.
Now, here's a good thing. Before we answer the question, because we suck at what we do, this question came in November, and we had a follow-up in January from Jonathan, and here's what he said. Well, the doctors were wrong. I did cut the tendons and had to get surgery to repair it. Now I'm out of commission for 12 weeks. Seriously considered replacing the table saw with a saw stop. I'll probably be using a cut glove on my left hand, especially since I got one for Christmas. So, and let's remind you guys, this is not a woodworking injury. This is a kitchen injury, right? That's crazy. So hope you're healing up there, Jonathan. That really sucks. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with considering a saw stop at this point. There hasn't been. I mean, people have their opinions on the company and the history, and that's all kind of a quagmire, giggity. But I honestly, right now, there's not much else that does that unless you want to spend Felder money. It's a good insurance policy if that's what you're into. I don't see anything wrong with it. So definitely consider that. But I thought, we don't have to get too deep into it, but kind of go around. What do you guys have in your shops for emergency safety situations? Anything, if anything, I should say.
Super glue.
I mean,
a big old bottle of glue.
This is one of those things I'm like, I should probably get like an actual first aid kit thing. But I've been thinking that for like almost a decade now. So I should maybe this is a good impetus for me to finally do that.
You won't do it.
I should. I absolutely should. Like having one that goes, like I've always wanted to have one that goes with my chainsaw stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, that scares me even more.
Sure.
Those things escalate even faster than a shop accident. Like the shop's, I cut my finger. Whatever. It's super glue and some masking tape or whatever.
My femoral artery.
It's fine. Our tree fell on me. Like what? Like that scares me a lot more.
Yeah.
Luckily, I haven't had any issues with that, but that's like major trauma kit versus our boo-boo kit.
I got a boo-boo. Yeah. No tendons on most things, but
I absolutely should have something in the shop. As far as like emergencies, like if I am unconscious, I have no idea what would happen. I don't think anyone would find me, even though they all live here. I don't think there's no like, oh, he's unconscious. Maybe if I had like an Apple Watch or like one of those things like could tell like something happened to you and could alert somebody. That might be kind of,
that would be handy. Yeah, at least if you fall or something goes on.
But yeah, if I got unconscious somehow in the shop and I was bleeding or something, I'd be dead.
Yeah,
no one would find me in time.
Yeah, that would still happen with me too. I mean,
I'd say
I have a first aid kit,
Yeah.
but if it's that severe and I'm on the ground and I can't get to my phone or something like that, like unless someone happens to be watching the security camera, which I know Nicole probably does all day when she's not at the shop, just to see what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like
working harder.
That is still a challenge from a broader safety perspective.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of first aid kits. I've got like a big like generic one with a bunch of medicine and just your basics for burns and stuff like that and minor cuts. I do have a tourniquet, and I've got a little first aid kit that I've kind of assembled myself. I bought the empty tin thing, and then I have a bunch of stuff in there for like stopping bleeding and a small tourniquet and just basic things like that. Oh, and also I used to have an eye wash station. That's something I really would like to get back into the shop. That's on my list of things I've been procrastinating about, Matt. That I can solve.
As far as that one goes, I did an ad thing for a company called, I forgot what it is now. It was like a year ago, but it attaches to a water bottle and it actually works. It's like an eye wash, eye flush.
I've seen those. Yeah.
I'm like, this is actually a really great idea. And they're fairly inexpensive. If you got a water bottle, like any water bottle, it just screws onto it and you can literally just splash your eye out of whatever might be in there.
Does it fit on a 5-gallon jug?
We can make you some adapters.
I can 3D print an adapter.
3D print yourself like a big giant reducer.
Giant jug of water. I don't have water bottles. We get them in jugs. That would be something else. Shannon, what about you? I know the incidents in your shop is probably not as frequent, or at least theoretically not as severe.
I mean, I've had stitches in a shop accident, but I I have a really fancy first aid kit. So I started with like, probably got it at Home Depot, like the little plastic box. And, the only thing I ever replaced in it was I run out of Band-Aids. I put new Band-Aids in. It had like a tourniquet and like a burn pack type thing. But actually it was for Christmas one year. My mother-in-law like bought me like the upgrade of upgrades. It's like $100 first aid kit. Like it's got everything. And it's, just a much, much bigger size, larger quantity of everything. It reminds me a little bit of like the school nurse and that big like tin thing, but it's huge, just on the wall. I have kind of like you buy a generator and the power never goes out. So I have this like super fancy thing and I've not had an issue since.
Probably fine.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I'd be okay with that.
Better that way.
Yeah. Knocking on wood.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you're up.
Again?
Yep.
My goodness.
Putting you to work, dude.
All right. Eric says, I just got a new computer and it looks like there's no longer an option to download the free 2017 version of SketchUp. I knew this day would come, but now I'm not sure what to do. I do one or two larger projects a year, projects bigger than just a simple picture frame, and I don't want to spend a fortune on software. Any suggestions for alternatives? So I'm not super familiar with like the SketchUp landscape these days because I unfortunately have SketchUp Pro, which because I do one or two big projects a year, I need because everyone else uses SketchUp that I'm doing plan stuff with.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like stuck with that.
Right.
I think do they still have the free version of SketchUp is like the web-based one, I believe.
Yep. And I think universally everyone kind of hates it.
Okay, well then never mind. I was going to say try that and see if that's enough for your one or two larger projects a year. Otherwise, I have used Fusion 360. I don't know if that one's still free. It used to be free for like some basic stuff.
Like that for personal use, I think it might still be free.
Some kind of nuanced thing like that. I tried that for a bit. It works just fine. It's like, again, it's like, do you want to learn something new? Is what it came down to. And for me, like it works just fine, but like I kind of know my way to like make SketchUp do what I want to do. Not that I think SketchUp is particularly easy to use, but like you get comfortable with something, and if you're only using it a few times a year and you kind of like have it in your workflow, you become like really resistant to change. Like I'm like oddly resistant to change. When I was young, like change, whatever, who cares? Try something new. And I'm like, I don't want to change anything.
Because your brain is all plastic now because you're getting old.
It's all that CV, it's just rotting my brain. So you could, if you are okay with changing softwares, it's probably better alternatives, to be honest, than what SketchUp has to offer, especially in the free version.
Yeah. I mean, the web-based version in theory was fine, but I've talked to actual users and it just, it's browser-based. So it has a lot of issues that can come from the internet connection not working the way you want, or losing progress, or just the interface is not great. And they really want to, the goal with a company like that is to push people to buy a license. So it is real problematic for people. We use SketchUp primarily, and we provide the files, for guild courses and stuff, just as a courtesy. But we do have that problem where a lot of people were using 2017, and now SketchUp's doing everything in their power to make sure it breaks so that it is not functional and doesn't do the things it used to do. I just did a quick Google. Fusion 360 for personal use is free. It says free online CAD for 3 years. For qualifying non-commercial users, a hobbyist user must generate less than $1,000 in annual revenue. How are they going to know? But still, fly under the radar.
Way to go.
But I don't know all the specifics, but that's what my quick Google search showed. So and there's very different styles of modeling software between them. So if you're used to SketchUp and you want to try it.
It takes a bit. I did it.
It's going to be an adjustment.
It takes a bit.
I should know this because I have it. What is the pro license on SketchUp?
It's like $300.
I mean, I've had it for years.
$100, right?
$300. I
think it's auto renew for me in March or something. So I should
like $299.
But it's just one of those line items in the business that I forget that I'm paying for.
Cost of doing business.
I mean, it's one of those things where if you're a super huge user of it, but he does a couple of projects a year. I mean, for me, I think try the free version, see what you get of it. Like if I wasn't producing models like as part of projects for my business, I would never finish a model in SketchUp. I use it mostly for proportional modeling. So I'm basically using like
Same here.
the rectangle tool and the push-pull tool. And that's kind of it.
Right.
Like I never plug joinery in. I never do any of that stuff unless I have to produce it, as part of a project. I've used the free version, and there's no question what it's great for is navigating an existing model. So people who do download the SketchUp models of my projects, I tell them just go to the browser.
Yeah.
Because that's
just
really
orbiting
what
around.
most people, that's what most people are using it for, is how did the project go together, and the orbit tool, the hand tool, basically that's it. But I guess it just depends on what you're doing. I would certainly give the free one a try, and you may decide that you hate it, but you also may go try the, any other free version and hate it because the user interface is not what you're not used to.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Sucks. Like
it's not a great tool, the free version. It's not great.
No.
But I have pro version experience, so of course it's not going to be great.
I guess, and I'm, this isn't my business, so what do I know? But so they've got it $349 a year is the pro license, right?
Okay, I was going to say 300.
For now, you go, okay. Well, why don't they have something just that's a light version? Just something where I don't need all the features of pro, but I still want a desktop version of the app, and I want to be able to save all my stuff locally. So they do have a $119 a year option, which I think would be like, oh, okay, maybe that's it. No. That's just to get the iPad version, and it says also the web-based modeler, which is free. So I don't know what they're adding to the pot there. But now you're on the iPad, which I guess I don't know who's modeling on the iPad. I think iPad's great for viewing. I don't know about actually modeling there. Someone let us know.
Most of SketchUp's like keyboard shortcuts. So like, what are you doing on?
Yeah,
right.
How intuitive could that really be?
Right. So that's what I'm thinking. Like they have,
I guess if you have a keyboard attachment for the iPad, that might help.
That's true. Yeah. You could put a mouse on the iPad too.
Okay.
So the problem I'm looking at though, that $119 a year, I'm like, that's a sweet spot price. Like someone like this person could maybe justify that cost once a year to get a great piece of software, but it's not even an option. It's $349 or you're dealing with iPad and web.
I mean, the other thing you can do is every time you got to use a project, you get the monthly subscription, use it for the month, and then cancel, and you spend $50 to use it for that one project or two projects.
Well, they have a 7-day free trial as well. So just keep using different email addresses for 7 days at a time.
Another Gmail account.
Oh, man.
Really? Do what you got to do, man. Anyway, hopefully that helps you out.
I can tell you at the AIA convention, that's the National the big architect convention, SketchUp had an enormous booth. And they even had runners like out on the floor, like pulling people in and like wanting to like teach people how to use SketchUp. They're obviously targeting the professional architect market pretty heavily right now. They don't care about the hobbyist woodworker.
Well, I was going to say, like
now,
most things, the niche woodworkers are not that important.
No. So
we think we are. We think we're very important, but we are not.
All right. This is from Von Welch. He says, I was recently listening to an episode of The Flophouse, the podcast about bad movies. A listener wrote in to say that on subscribing to The Flophouse, YouTube recommended they might like Wood Talk. Hey, algorithm finally worked for us. While I don't think you converted them to woodworking, you did motivate them to ask about the best use of wood in movies. We'll put a link to this. I actually listened to it.
Well, actually, I have it queued up if you want to hear it.
Yes, play it.
So this is a clip, just to give proper credit. It's a clip from a podcast called The Flophouse. So let me see where it is there.
So this is from Luke, last name withheld, over the flop. Hey there. Long time, first time, etc. I've listened to you chuckleheads for a while, but only recently subscribed to your YouTube channel. Today, the algorithm decided that since I like your channel, I might also like Wood Talk, which as far as I can tell, only has in common with your show that it is three guys with cartoon avatars talking about something. I guess I should ask a related question. So, what's your favorite use of wood in a movie?
I thought that was funny. The funny thing about it is he says there's no link. There is a very obscure link here. It's not a good one, but it's all I got. This show is at Max Fun, which is a podcast network, which also produces another show that is one of my absolute favorite podcasts that I listen to on a weekly basis, and that's The Greatest Generation, which is a Star Trek podcast. So we do have a little bit, sort of a connection, because I'm a fan of one of their podcasts. There you
like
go.
A stretch. But okay.
A little bit of a stretch. All right. So I did think this was a fun question. And if you guys, not to put you on the spot because you didn't know this question was coming, I have an answer for not necessarily woodworking in a movie, but the wood, like the woodwork or something in the movie just represented really well in terms of the wood that was being shown. So for me, and an easy go-to, I think for a lot of people, I might steal an answer from one of you, is Back to the Future. So of course, Doc Brown's house is one of the green and green homes, his mansion when he goes back to. It was the Gamble house. Yeah, when he goes back to 55? Doc Brown's house, the exteriors are the Gamble house, and I believe the interiors are a mix of stage that they set up as well as the Blacker house, if I have that history correct. So it's so fun to just kind of see that as a little bit of trivia in the background. Another one, which I believe was all, built on a stage, is a movie that it's a little old at this point, but you might want to watch it if you got young kids. It's called Zathura, which is just a really weird word to say.
Wasn't that like a Jumanji space?
It is a lot like Jumanji. Yeah. It's like they're playing a game and the game becomes real. And the thing is, their house is like an old craftsman style, mission style home. Like a bungalow type of look to it. And it's just fun to watch, even though it might just be a movie set. It's something that's almost a character in the movie. But again, I mean, it's a fun little action movie if you got young kids. It's got the kid from Hunger Games. And the vampire chick is in there too.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. The shiny vampire chick.
I'm glad that you said two, because I had two that immediately popped in my head, so now I get to say them both.
Yeah.
For me, hands down, the Patriot. At the beginning of the movie, he's trying to build a Windsor chair and he sits on it and it collapses. That was
Chuck
awesome.
it in the pile.
And he spends, and it comes back throughout the movie, still trying to figure out how to make that Windsor chair so perfectly. As far as something that I remember resonating with me and just a really obscure about 3 seconds in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And we're talking the 1971 version, not the stupid, more recent versions. When Charlie gets the golden ticket and Slugworth tells him, quick, run, Charlie. And then there's this whole musical montage where he runs through the town. Yeah. He turns a corner to get away from the crowd and he runs by this crotchety old woodworker at a German workbench, and he's got the scrub plane with the wooden horn on the front, and he's there planing a board in the background, and he kind of shouts at Charlie because Charlie runs by and he says something in German you little whippersnapper. Yeah. But it was just perfect.
Get off my lawn.
Look. And of course, at the time, I was building my Roubeau, and I'm like, look, it's a hobo bank. And it's
Pause
oh my god,
hold on, go back, enhance.
I did that.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, what about you, Matt?
I have one that's more personal, I guess, a weird wood story from a movie. I don't remember what movie it was. Let's start off by saying that it was some comedy thing. Where I don't know, some guy with some rich guy. They had this amazing bed in one of the scenes where it was a big slab headboard style bed, and it had these floating shelves off the side of it for your nightstand. Mm-hmm. And I was looking, I was watching this movie. It's the only movie I paused it to look at stuff going in the back. I'm like, holy hell! It's an actual real slab bed that is perfectly in place. Yeah. And then I think a few months later, after I saw that movie, I was at AWFS and that bed was there at the weird GL veneer booth. I'm like, holy hell! That is the most the weirdest occurrence in my life. I'm I was so infatuated by this bed in this movie. And then I never really put it together that's a real bed that someone put together for a set design, and they had to source that real bed from somewhere. And it just happens to be here. And that was the year that they had they had a giant octopus carving thing there too. They brought that thing to the show. But they had that bed.
I think I know what movie you're talking about. No, I can't. I don't know. Never mind.
It was some thing where the someone's, it was Meet the Parents kind of thing, but with God, what the heck is his name? From Pineapple Express, I think. And
Seth Rogen?
No, the other guy. The other one. Oh, I can't even think of his name either right now.
Stifler you're talking about?
No,
wrong movie. Never mind. Oh, you're talking the guy who always looks like he's high?
They all do. Everybody
and not
from
Joe
those
Rogan.
movies is. His buddy.
All right. I can't remember his name.
Joe Rogan, the podcaster?
Yeah. No, the other Seth.
Yeah. All right, yeah. What is his name? We're not good. I need Nicole
I'm
here.
so bad at this.
She's really good with movies.
Well, Pineapple Express with Seth
talking about
Rogen and
James Franco?
Yes, James
the
Franco.
Green
Yes.
Goblin
Okay.
guy.
I had to look it up.
That's yes, him.
Jeez
That guy.
Louise.
He was like some like wealthy something, and like his girlfriend was bringing his parents to meet him, but he's like weirdly eccentric, and I don't remember what the heck this movie is.
Okay, well, but it's a good
Didn't
bed.
we
huh?
hear something on this show about a person who got their hands on like the bed from The Godfather? And
Did
it
we
had
hear
like
that?
the
This show?
actual, yeah.
That doesn't
Maybe
ring
it
a
wasn't
bell.
this show, but there was like somebody who had actually like it was the set piece they used,
Yeah.
and it had like holes in it because they used the little whatever they're called, the explosive squibs or whatever, to make it look like bullet holes.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was that scene when he got shot up in the bed, and he ended up with this, and it was proof that like in a lot of the instances these set pieces are actual like real pieces of furniture. Like it's
Some
not
effort
just,
was put into it.
yeah, like
the,
it was
the
real
movie is
craftsmanship.
Why Him? James Franco and Bryan Cranston
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
from
All right.
Like Bryan Cranston.
2017. I don't know. It wasn't
look at
like
that.
it wasn't like a super great. It was funny. It wasn't like a great movie or whatever, but it served its purpose.
It's got a whole 40% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
There
It's
we
pretty
go.
good. Okay. Well, I'll go look
All
for
right.
the bed after I watch Willy Wonka
I don't know
again.
if it's in the trailer or
Yeah,
not, but
yeah. You just have to watch those 6 seconds, and the
Yeah.
woodwork is done.
That's what I'll do. All right.
Although I have a question for our audience. How many of you began to calculate the board footage of the home tree in Avatar when it came down? Because I did.
I did not.
that's a lot of songs.
Confess. Didn't even
Yeah,
occur
it
to
is.
me.
It is, but can you imagine the board you get from that?
It's a lot of yield.
Some wide ones, man. Look at the slabs.
Charge a lot for those.
Slab
All right.
football field.
Shannon,
Yeah.
yours is in the form of a voicemail from Antonio.
Hey guys, Antonio here. I'm a long-time listener, and today I have 2 questions for you. First off, I'm in the market for my first Western-style saw, and I think it's going to be a dovetail saw. Now, I'm not sure whether to get a Rob Cosman one or a Bad Axe dovetail saw. The only difference that I can tell is that the Rob Cosman one has a few finer teeth at the beginning of the saw, which supposedly make it easier to start to cut. But I don't know if that's going to be a hassle to sharpen 2 different types of teeth or not. Yeah, and the second question is, I don't have space for a bandsaw, so I'm looking for a resawing type of saw. Now, I remember in previous episodes, Shannon recommended something in the range of 2 to 3 ppi, and the only thing that I can find on the market is around 5. Now, I'm primarily looking to resaw boards around 8 to 10 inches. So yeah, any recommendations on that would be very helpful. Thanks for not knitting, and greetings from Croatia.
All right. I feel like I've made a mistake leaving a question like this to the end of a long show for
Good
Shannon.
move on that one.
Well, we'll make this quick then. I've used both the Rob Cosman and the Bad Axe saw. Admittedly, not as much time. I've never owned a Cosman saw. I've used it at trade shows and things like that. I've owned a Bad Axe stiletto dovetail saw for the better part of 10 years. So obviously, you're probably going to guess where I go on that. In general, I do not agree with manipulating teeth or progressive pitch or any of that stuff. It is a royal pain in the butt to sharpen. And I realize that you're going to be a long time before you're going to have to sharpen a dovetail saw, but when the time comes, you are going to hate your life having to mess with different pitches of teeth. I also find it to be a little gimmicky. Like if you have a appropriate hand sawing technique, you can start any saw on any species of wood with any pitch. Yes, it's harder to start a 5 points per inch saw on something super hard like Ipe, but it can be done. When you're dealing with a dovetail saw that in general is 16 to 20 points per inch, it's pretty easy to start accurately. You don't need the progressive pitch. I also don't agree with dovetail saws in the 20 ppi range. That's just ridiculous. The pain in the butt to sharpen. So I would easily go with the Bad Axe saw. I don't like the handle feel of the Cosman saw. I feel like it's just a bit too clunky. And it's so weird to say this, obviously, because Rob Cosman is probably the finest dovetailer on the planet right now. So he obviously knows what he's doing, but he also is a really, really good teacher. And I feel like the Cosman dovetail saw has a little features designed to teach people how to cut dovetails, which could be a great thing. But once you've learned to cut dovetails, I feel like a lot of stuff will really get in the way. So yeah, I would go with bad axe more than anything else. As far as resawing, I mean, if you're going to go below 5 points per inch, you're going to get into a very specific saw. I use a 3 points per inch blade. I have a bit of an unusual case in this sense. I have 6 of them. You don't need 6 of them. But 2 of them I made the blade myself. And the other 4 I bought from Blackburn Toolworks. Now, Blackburn Toolworks is, while it's still in existence, let's just say don't buy from them because you might take 6 years before you get your blade. There's some stuff going on there. There are apparently some new guys on the market that are starting to make these blades. I'll have to dig it up. I can try to put it in the show notes. Somebody mentioned it, brought it up very recently in my hand tool school forum. There is someone who's doing this in small batches. If you're just getting into resawing though, in 8 to 10 inch boards, go with a 5 points per inch. Grab your typical Western, distant D8 style saw that's going to be 5 to 5.5 points per inch, and do it that way. It's going to take longer. I've talked about this in previous shows, but it's more about getting the sawdust out of the cut. So make sure you're taking long forward strokes and long back strokes to allow the dust to fall out. You can do it with a 5 points per inch saw. It really won't take nearly as long as you think. And it's certainly an easier entry into this than going in and buying a specific blade, waiting a long time. You're still going to have to build the frame for that blade. And that is a very different saw. It's not a skill that's going to be really transferable anywhere else. Whereas if you learn to use that typical handsaw, that is a transferable skill to a lot of other things in woodworking. I would start with just a typical handsaw of 5 points per inch.
Nice. I think I have the subject for our video that we do together, Shannon, is you come into my shop and roast my hand tool choices. That would be fun.
Oh, let's start with the shoulder planes, shall we?
All right. Sounds good to me. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. A nice supersized chunky boy show. Remember, the show is made possible.
Shows all together.
Yeah, by the generous contributions of our patrons. And if you'd like to help out and get your name read on the show and also get that ad-free version of the show, head over to patreon.com/woodtalk.
And hey, thanks for sending in the questions. We owe this Chunky Boy show to you for all those questions. So keep sending them in. Go to woodtalkshow.com. There's a form there. You can hit us up on Instagram. We are at Woodtalk Show, or just send us a voicemail or a good old-fashioned email, woodtalkshow@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Especially thank you, Todd, for making it watchable on YouTube. And don't forget, it's out there. If you listen to this and think, I just got to see what those Jack and Ninnies did, go to YouTube. You can find us there.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week for more thoughts from Zack.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would love that.